Story: Beneath the Starlit Sky. The night sky above the Tuscan hills stretched like a velvet curtain, studded with diamonds of light. Isabella stood at the edge of the vineyard, her hands brushing gently against the grapevines. The air carried the scent of lavender and earth, mixed with the sound of cicadas singing into the night. She had grown up here, but tonight felt different. Tonight carried the weight of something she couldn't yet name. Far across the vineyard, a lantern flickered. She knew it was Lorenzo. Lorenzo had been her childhood friend, the boy who once carved their initials into the bark of an old olive tree. They had dreamed under these very stars, speaking of futures they weren't sure would ever come true. But life had scattered them. Lorenzo had left to study in Florence, chasing his dreams of becoming a painter. Isabella stayed behind, bound by duty to her family's vineyard. Years passed. Letters dwindled. Silence grew. And yet, when she heard he had returned to Tuscany after nearly a decade, her heart stirred with both fear and longing. Now, as the lantern's glow drew nearer, she saw him. Lorenzo looked different, older, broader in shoulders, yet his eyes still carried that familiar spark. "Isabella," he said softly, his voice trembling, as though speaking her name after so long was both painful and sacred. Her lips curved in a faint smile. "You came back." "I had to," he whispered, stepping closer. "Every painting I ever made, it was of you, Isabella. Even when I tried to paint other things, somehow your face found its way into the canvas." Her heart thudded. "And yet you never wrote." His eyes dropped, guilt clouding them. "I thought, if I stayed away, you'd move on. That maybe it would hurt less for both of us." She shook her head, tears gathering in her eyes. "You don't know how many nights I stood under this sky, waiting, hoping you'd come back." The silence between them was thick with unsaid words. The stars above seemed to lean closer, listening. Finally, Lorenzo lifted a small, worn sketchbook from his satchel. He handed it to her with trembling fingers. "This is everything I—" The vineyard was quiet around them, but their hearts were loud, echoing with years of love suppressed and now finally released. "I don't want to lose you again," Isabella said, her voice firm despite her tears. "Then don't," he replied simply, pulling her into his arms. "Stay with me. Beneath the sky, beneath these stars, let's begin again." And so they kissed, soft at first, then with the urgency of two souls reclaiming what fate had tried to steal. The vineyard, the stars. The night all bore witness to a love that had endured silence, distance, and time itself. For in the end, it wasn't absence that defined them. It was the unbreakable bond that had always lived beneath the starlit sky. Moral of the story: true love may be delayed, but it is never denied. Even when time and distance separate hearts, destiny always finds a way to bring. The rain had just begun to fall in the quiet town of Willowbrook. The streets shimmered under the glow of the streetlights, and the sound of droplets echoed like a soft melody. In a small cafe at the corner of Maple Street, Amelia sat by the window, her fingers gently tracing the rim of her coffee cup. She wasn't waiting for anyone, but her eyes kept drifting to the door as if expecting someone to walk through. 10 years ago, she had left Willowbrook. 10 years ago, she had left him, Ethan. He was the boy with the crooked smile and eyes that held the warmth of 1,000 suns. Back then, they were inseparable, to souls destined to be together. But life had its way of testing love. Amelia received a scholarship abroad, and Ethan's family fell into financial struggles. Letters were exchanged, promises made, but somewhere along the way, silence replaced words. Yet, Amelia never stopped loving him one day. While unpacking her old boxes in her apartment, Amelia discovered a sealed envelope hidden in the pages of her diary. The letter was from Ethan, dated the very week she had left Willowbrook. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "Amelia, if you read this, know that I never stopped loving you. Meet me at Maple Cafe on the 15th of September at 6 p.m. If you don't come, I'll understand that our love was only meant to be." The door creaked open. A man stepped in, drenched from the rain, his violin case slung across his shoulder. His hair was slightly messy, his eyes tired but familiar. Amelia's heart stopped. It was him, Ethan. Their eyes met, and in that instant, 10 years melted away. Ethan froze in disbelief before walking toward her slowly, almost afraid she would disappear. "Amelia." His voice cracked, filled with shock. She nodded, tears threatening to spill. "I found your letter. 10 years too late." Ethan's eyes glistened. He pulled out his wallet and unfolded a worn photograph of them together. "I've carried this every single day. I never stopped waiting." They talked for hours, their voices trembling between laughter and tears. Ethan confessed he had stayed in Willowbrook, teaching music, waiting every September 15th at the cafe, hoping, praying she would return. Amelia's guilt turned to relief, for destiny had given them another chance. When the rain finally stopped, they stepped outside. Ethan opened his violin case and played a soft, melancholic tune. People paused to listen, but for Amelia, the world had vanished. Under the glowing street lamp, Amelia whispered, "Can we start again?" Ethan smiled, his eyes shining. "We never ended." Years later, people in Willowbrook often spoke about the couple at Maple Cafe, the man with the violin and the woman who always sketched by the window. They became a symbol of love lost and found, of promises broken and healed. Because sometimes, love doesn't die, it simply waits for the right moment. And for Amelia and Ethan, that moment came 10 years late, but just in time for eternity. Story: When the Stars Remembered Us. On a warm summer night in the countryside, Layla lay on the grass, gazing at the stars. Every year, during the meteor shower, she would make the same wish: to meet someone who would understand her, heart without words. That night, she wasn't alone. A young traveler, Adrian, happened to stop in her small town. He had been wandering the world, searching for inspiration to write his novel. When he saw Layla sitting under the stars sketchbook in her lap, he asked softly, "Do you believe the stars can hear us?" She looked up, startled, then smiled. "Only if we whisper loud enough." And so began their first conversation about dreams, about loneliness, about the strange way destiny brings strangers together. Over the following weeks, Adrian and Layla became inseparable. He read her his unfinished chapters. She showed him her paintings of the night sky. He told her stories of cities she had only seen in books. She taught him the beauty of silence beneath the stars. But both carried secrets. Layla had never left her town, tied down by family obligations. Adrian, though free to roam, carried a hidden fear that he was always searching, never belonging. One evening, Adrian whispered, "What if the stars put us together for a reason?" Layla replied, "Then I hope they don't forget us." But life is rarely kind. Adrian's journey couldn't end in Willowbrook. His publisher demanded he travel, finish his book, and chase his dreams. On their last night, the meteor shower returned. They sat together, holding hands, their hearts heavy. "Promise me one thing," Layla said, tears in her eyes. "No matter where you go, look at the stars and remember me." Adrian pressed his forehead against hers. "I'll do more than remember. I'll write you into every page." And then he was gone. Years passed. Layla's paintings became known in small, but though they both became known for their art, their hearts remained quietly aching. 10 years later, at a grand book signing in the city, Layla walked into the crowded hall. On the table, surrounded by fans, sat Adrian. His hair was touched with silver now, but his eyes still carried the same starlight. When he saw her, his pen slipped from his hand. For a moment, the noise of the room vanished. "You came," he whispered, breathless. "I followed the stars," she said softly, tears brimming. Adrian stood, ignoring the crowd, and pulled her into his arms. "I wrote the book so the stars wouldn't forget us, but they didn't have to, because you remembered." That night, under the city sky, They looked up at the stars once more. Adrian held her hand, whispering, "They remembered us, Layla, and now. I'll never let you go again." The stars, silent witnesses, seemed to shine brighter, as if celebrating the reunion of two souls who had always belonged together. Moral of the story: true love doesn't fade with time or distance. It lingers in memories, in art, in the stars waiting for the right moment to reunite two hearts.